Good morning, everyone. This morning, we're going to begin the topic of sociolinguistics. Firstly, let's define sociolinguistics. Well, sociolinguistics examines the link between language and society. Sociolinguists analyze the ways in which language use varies according to different situations. You might now be wondering, what's the point in studying sociolinguistics? Well, sociolinguistics demonstrates how human language reflects the reality of the world in which we speakers live. What I mean is, sociolinguistics is important because it helps us to understand how and why language is used by people in different circumstances. Now, today I'm going to give you an outline of a few key concepts which we are going to look at. You'll be able to cover all the important points that I mention in more detail in your seminars. To start with, I'll talk about the way social groupings and networks affect the language people use. Later, I'll move on to regional dialects. After that, we'll touch on research which examines the way in which men's and women's speech differs. By the way, I'll use dialect and variety to mean the same thing. A dialect or variety means the form of language used by different groups of people. This includes vocabulary as well as grammar and pronunciation. Then I'll be talking about the film My Fair Lady, which shows sociolinguistics in practice. It's also really quite fun. Finally, before you leave, I'll be giving you your first piece of homework. Essentially, sociolinguistics explores the connection between society and language use. I suppose you could say that sociolinguists are looking to see how our speech is influenced by who we are and what we are doing. Arguably, this connection is most noticeably demonstrated in regional varieties. So, what is a regional variety? Well, a regional variety is a dialect of a language used in a specific geographical area of a country. Some regional dialects are so distinct from standard varieties that they are known by particular names. It is likely that some of you have heard of British dialects of English such as Brummie from the Birmingham area, Geordie from Newcastle upon Tyne, and Scouse from Liverpool. And why are there so many regional dialects in Britain? That's a very good question. English has been used in this country for more than 1,500 years. And, over time, the English used in different areas of Britain has changed. People's language use has adapted as a result of their own needs and outside influences. So let's move on. The variety of language we use is also affected by our social groupings or networks. The type of language used by a particular social group or subculture is often referred to as a sociolect. The roles played by an individual in identifying with social networks and showing membership can have an impact on language and therefore the use of lexis and grammar. At any given time, a person's language can vary according to which role they are playing and the particular situation they are in. A good way of explaining this is to think of the different roles that you play in your own life. I bet that the way you speak to your parents is quite different to the way you speak to your boyfriend or girlfriend. No doubt, interacting with a bank clerk is not the same as chatting to your niece or nephew. Talking on the phone to colleagues at work differs greatly from speaking to your friends on the phone at home. Of course, no two people have the same set of circumstances, so it follows that no two people use language in exactly the same way. An individual's unique use of language is called an idiolect. Finally, today I would like to draw your attention to one further influence on language variety. Sources from research show that an individual's language usage is influenced by gender. This means that there are some noticeable differences in the way in which men and women speak. Where was I? Oh, yes. Differences caused by a person's sex can include areas such as word choice and pronunciation. Studies have shown that male speakers of any regional dialect tend to use the most pronounced regional accents. Before next class, I'd like you to study a few short clips from the film My Fair Lady. You can watch it in the Resources Center. Of course, the examples in this film are a bit simplistic, but they do show how social roles are mirrored in language. The film focuses on a kind of sociolinguistic experiment. It examines the work of linguist Professor Higgins, who tries to teach a poor, uneducated working-class Cockney girl, Eliza Doolittle, to behave like an educated lady. In order to prove to the upper classes that Eliza is a sophisticated and educated lady, she has to disregard her regional and socioeconomic background and completely change the way she speaks. As you will see, this is easier said than done. Of course, My Fair Lady is just a story. How do real sociolinguists collect the necessary data? Well, in some cases, it's actually not so different from the work of Professor Higgins in the film. Like Professor Higgins, sociolinguists obviously rely on research, fieldwork, and analysis. There are several ways to categorize linguistic research. Let me see. One way is to distinguish between primary and secondary research. Another important distinction is between qualitative and quantitative research. However, oh dear, sadly, I see that we've run out of time. This means that I'll have to ask you to do some research. For your first assignment, I'd like you to find out what is meant by the 4 types of research I've just mentioned. That is, primary and secondary research and qualitative and quantitative research. We'll discuss what you've found out next time I see you.